U.S. drones flying surveillance missions over the Black Sea are often intercepted by Russian fighters, but never like what happened today. A Russian jet approached from the rear, dumping fuel. U.S. officials believe it meant to come up in front of the drone so it would fly into the fuel cloud, but pulled up too soon and clipped the drone's propeller, which is located in the rear. The drone's controllers could do nothing but let it glide into the sea.
They collided with the aircraft, damaging the propeller and essentially putting it in a situation where it was unflyable and uncontrollable.
It happened 75 miles southwest of the Crimean Peninsula, a part of Ukraine seized by Russia. For more than half an hour, 2 Russian jets made a total of 19 passes on the unarmed drone, popping up in front to blast it with their jet exhaust and trying to drench it with fuel. On the final pass, the Russian pilot missed his approach. Just bad piloting, one official said. U.S. officials believe the Russians were dumping the fuel in an attempt to damage the drone. Now the Pentagon wants to recover the wreckage before the Russians get to it, but they're operating at a disadvantage since there are no U.S. Navy ships in the Black Sea.
You know, we are continuing to assess exactly what happened, but I think based on the actions of the Russian pilots, it's clear that it was unsafe, unprofessional, and I think the actions speak for themselves. What we saw, again, were fighter aircraft dumping fuel in front of this UAV and then getting so close to the aircraft that it actually damaged the propeller on the MQ-9. We assess that it likely caused some damage to the Russian aircraft as well. To our knowledge, well, we know that the Russian aircraft did land. I'm not going to go into where they landed. But again, it's just demonstrative of very unprofessional, unsafe airmanship on the part of these pilots. Because of the damage, we were in a position to have to essentially crash it into the Black Sea. To my knowledge, at this point in time, the Russians have not recovered that aircraft.
Enough. Do something. We remember and mourn today, but I'm here with you today to act.
Speaking in Monterey Park, California, where 11 people were killed this year in a mass shooting.
11 souls taken.
U.S. President Joe Biden announced an executive order that reinforced background checks for gun buyers in what the White House is promoting as the most comprehensive policy the president can enact without Congress. Biden also touted a move to strengthen federal support for red flag laws that intend to stop gun sales to people deemed dangerous.
It's just common sense to check whether someone is a felon, a domestic abuser, before they buy a gun.
Red flag laws have already been passed by 19 states and the District of Columbia, but Biden on Tuesday again stressed the need for more federal legislation.
Ban assault weapons, ban them again, do it now. Enough, do something. Do something big.
And the majority of Americans do want Congress to act. A Reuters Ipsos poll last year found 84% of respondents supported background checks for all firearms sales, and 70% backed red flag laws. That survey was taken immediately after a gunman opened fire at a school in Uvalde, Texas, killing 19 students and 2 teachers. Many gun rights advocates oppose background checks, saying they infringe on constitutional rights to possess arms while failing to stop criminals from getting them. But with more than 40,000 gun deaths in the United States per year, Biden says the government can't afford to drag its feet. The devastation unleashed by gun violence seen clearly in Monterey Park, where on Tuesday, Biden spoke about each and every victim killed in the massacre at Star Ballroom Dance Studio.
Nigal, 72. Mr. Nice, for his kindness, his positivity, his infectious smile. Moy Dayan, 67. Refugee, community builder, cherished friend. All of them lived lives of love, sacrifice.
The White House said that after his speech, Biden met privately with the families of the victims and first responders.
The U.S. Department of Justice is investigating the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank. That's according to a source familiar with the matter on Tuesday. This comes as scrutiny mounts over its sudden demise and regulators scramble to contain the fallout. The Securities and Exchange Commission has launched an investigation as well, according to the Wall Street Journal, which first reported the probes. The Justice Department, the bank, and the SEC declined to comment. The investigation is in its early stages and may not result in allegations of wrongdoing or charges being filed, the source said. The rapid collapse of Silicon Valley Bank and the fall of Signature Bank have left regulators racing to contain risks to the rest of the sector. On Tuesday, ratings agency Moody's cut its outlook on the U.S. banking system to negative from stable. Despite that, bank stocks climbed across the board on Tuesday. First Republic jumped 25% in afternoon trading, as investors bet the crisis was ebbing after President Joe Biden this week said all depositors in the failed banks would be protected and vowed to strengthen the banking system.
During the Obama-Biden administration, we put in place tough requirements on banks like Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank, including the Dodd-Frank law to make sure that the crisis we saw in 2008 would not happen again. Unfortunately, the last administration rolled back some of these requirements. I'm going to ask Congress and the banking regulators to strengthen the rules for banks to make it less likely this kind of bank failure would happen again, and to protect American jobs and small businesses.
The Federal Reserve is also conducting a review of these recent bank failures. Democratic U.S. Senator Elizabeth Warren wants Fed Chair Jerome Powell to stay out of this, accusing him of contributing to the failures by supporting the easing of bank rules. In a statement Tuesday, Warren wrote, "For the Fed's inquiry to have credibility, Powell must publicly and immediately recuse himself from this internal review." Separately, Senator Warren sent a letter to the former CEO of Silicon Valley Bank, Greg Becker, pressing for details on the bank's lobbying in favor of a 2018 law that eased regulations for large regional banks, which she and others have pointed to as contributing to the bank's Friday collapse. She also asked for information regarding any stock sales by executives or bonuses paid out in the months leading up to its failure.
Meta Platforms announced Tuesday that it will axe 10,000 more jobs, its second round of mass layoffs, as the tech industry braces for a deep economic downturn. The job cuts, which come after the company slashed 11,000 jobs in November, are part of a larger restructuring plan, as CEO Mark Zuckerberg declared last month that 2023 would be Meta's, quote, year of efficiency. The owner of Facebook and Instagram, which had been pouring billions of dollars into building the futuristic metaverse, has struggled with a slump in advertising. And Daniel Ives, senior equity analyst at Wedbush Securities, said Meta may be changing course.
This is really Zuckerberg and Meta ripping the Band-Aid off in terms of the cost structure. Clearly, they've seen headwinds, and it's really a 180-degree turnaround in terms of what we saw from a year ago, where this company was spending money like 1980 rock stars. This metaverse strategy really starting to reverse course as Zuckerberg's reading the room. That's what Wall Street wants to see.
In a message to staff, Zuckerberg called 2022, quote, a humbling wake-up call, and said while the latest job cuts would be announced in April and May, they could continue through the end of the year. Worries of an economic downturn due to rising interest rates have sparked a series of mass job cuts across corporate America, from Wall Street banks such as Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley to fellow big tech firms Amazon and Microsoft. Meta shares jumped 6% Tuesday on the news.
As the US and South Korea stage their biggest joint military exercise in years, North Korea has fired several short-range missiles into the sea off its east coast in response. The country's state news agency KCNA said on Wednesday the launches were part of a military drill to train its troops to carry out their mission at any time and, quote, annihilate the enemy if necessary. Last week, leader Kim Jong-un ordered the military to expand combat drills and prepare for war. Tuesday's missile launches coincided with 11-day joint drills between South Korean and American forces, dubbed Freedom Shield 23. North Korea condemns the joint drills as a rehearsal for invasion and proof of hostile policies from Seoul and Washington. About 400 soldiers, 50 military equipment, and 2 Apache helicopters were mobilized for the operation on Monday. US Captain Sean Casperson.
We've learned a lot from each other and been able to demonstrate our ability to work together as one team. We look forward to continuing to train together and building the relationship between the US and the Korean forces. We'll remain ready to fight tonight. Kachi kapchida.
South Korea is also seeking closer ties with Japan to combat the threat from Pyongyang, despite decades of friction and mistrust between the two US allies. On Wednesday, President Yoon Suk-yeol said cooperation with Tokyo was vital as he prepares to visit Tokyo, the first visit by a South Korean leader in 12 years. The planned trip comes after South Korea announced last week its companies would compensate victims of forced labor under Japan's colonial rule from 1910 to 1945. The dispute has undermined US-led efforts to present a united front against China and North Korea.
2 young girls are the suspects in the fatal stabbing of a 12-year-old in a case that has shocked Germany. Police combed through a wooded area on Tuesday looking for more clues. The suspects are ages 12 and 13. The body of the victim, known only as Louise, was found near a cycle path on Sunday by police. Her parents had raised the alarm the day before after she had visited with a friend. Investigators say she died as a result of knife wounds. They say there was no sign of sexual assault and no evidence anyone else was involved. A German investigator said the children admitted to the crime.
Und die Tat letztendlich auch einräumten.
Prosecutor Mario Manweiler said a motive for the crime may not come to an adult's mind and that he could not release further details. Because of the young ages of the suspects, they are not subject to criminal law in Germany and are in the hands of the Youth Office.